Hey there, and welcome to the Dirt Road Tourist. And thanks for tuning in. I'm Ken, your host. If you thought that Cape Lookout is the only overlanding game in the eastern part of North Carolina, you'd be wrong. I'm going to tell you about one of the hidden gems on the sound side of the coast, so stay tuned. Hello and welcome. My wife Susan and we're on a mission to explore the byways of this country to find the food, the people, and even the odd stuff. We're exploring where the roads lead after you leave the interstates behind, and beyond where the roads end. Whether you're thinking about getting started overlanding or rocking a fully built rig, I'll be talking about the places we go and giving tips to make your journeys go smoother. And it all starts now on this episode of the Dirt Road Tourist. So we're done with the holidays, done with the bout of crap winter weather here in eastern North Carolina. I'm not on call, and we are all systems go for a trip this weekend. The weather app can't seem to decide from day to day whether it's going to rain or not, but we're not going to let that slow us down. I want to talk about where we're going, but before I do that, I need to talk about the elephant in the room. Yeah, it's not Monday. So we're coming out of the holiday season, and our camping schedule is getting really ready to take off. Our trips throughout the year are mostly weekend affairs, so depending on when we roll back into the house on Sunday, I may or may not have time to record, edit an episode, go to Canva and make cover art, upload it to the host, and get everything out there and scheduled for a Monday drop. And I kind of want to talk about some of the trips that we do. And I don't want to talk about the trip that we did the weekend before last. I want to talk about the trip we just took. And I don't know about you, but are you tired of me doing an endless string of how to's? I know I am. I want to add some actual overlanding content to my podcast. Bottom line is, I'm going to start releasing my podcast on Wednesday mornings. Everything I've read indicates that midweek is a better time to drop new episodes anyway, so anything that helps with gaining audience is a plus too. Hey, I'm just starting out on this podcast thing. I've been doing the overlanding thing for a while, but I'm very much learning the fine art of podcasting, so bear with me. Not trying to play fast and loose with my schedule, just trying to make it fit in a little bit better with our travels. Anyway, Wednesday mornings are the new drop days, so you know when to look. Or you could just hit the subscribe and you don't have to worry about when episodes drop. They just show up. Hey, magic. Just in case you needed something other than my constant begging to hit the button. So I spent the weekend cleaning out the rig to get her ready for the first trip of the year. And that included like emptying the drawers, wiping those things out, getting them cleaned out, running the kitchen utensils and pots through the dishwasher. And no, I do wash everything after we use it out on the trail. I'm not a barbarian, but every once in a while, it's a good thing to get everything completely spick and span, and then put it back in. I was airing out and repacking the annex, organizing the drawers, making sure everything goes back in there where it's supposed to, because, over the course of use through a season, sometimes they can start to get a little bit disheveled when you're just kind of putting stuff back while you're using it. I was making sure that our 5 pounder propane can is full and that I had plenty of fire starters stocked for campfires. And this is a good practice to do, especially ahead of season changes. So you want to make sure that you have the right gear packed for the season that you're heading into. So like in the fall, you kind of want to start making sure that you have all of your winter gear, your heavy sleeping bags and stuff like that stowed. But as you come out of winter and you do one of these spring cleanings here for the spring season, you want to make sure that you have the right gear for that season. And then typically I'll do that again sometime in May for the summer season because again, your gear that you need for a given season, it changes from season to season. And you want to make sure everything's packed neatly, everything's been, it gives you a chance to get in there and get everything clean, that is organized, and you have the right gear for the trips that you're going to be taking during that season. So it's a good idea to get into a habit of doing this 3 or 4 times a year, depending on, what seasons you camp, whether you camp throughout the year or if you're more just a summer and fall person. But getting in the habit of just kind of going through, taking everything out of the drawer system, everything out of the rig, get all your gear out, and then clean it, fold everything up neatly, get everything back in the drawers neatly is a good habit to get in ahead of each season. So that was what I was doing with the weekend because we got this trip coming up, and I just kind of wanted to make sure that the rig is ready to go so that whenever we get up on Saturday morning, it's a go. All we have to do is just load the dog into the truck, load ourselves in, and off we go. So I knew we wanted to do a trip down to a coastal area, but it's not a long enough weekend for Cape Lookout, and Cape Lookout doesn't open until March anyway. And it's nothing against Cape Lookout. Cape Lookout is an amazing place to visit. It's just miles and miles of this pristine beaches, and you can drive right out there on the beach, camp up against the dunes. Great fishing, especially if you go out there during the spot run. It's a fisherman's haven out there. But going to Cape Lookout involves buying beach passes and driving permits. You have to book your fare for the ferry to take you out there because isn't a bridge to get to Cape Lookout. And you really need a longer trip to make all of that worth it because it can be kind of expensive. The ferry trips, the last time that I checked, it was about $150 to get out there. So it's not a cheap trip to take. But I'll tell you what, if you've never actually been out to Cape Lookout National Seashore in North Carolina, you should really put that on your bucket list because it is a very special place, very special trip. But you don't want to really do this on a weekend because going through the whole ferry thing, the permits, getting out there is a little bit of an ordeal. And if you're just going to do that on a Saturday to camp out overnight and then turn around and come back, it's not really worth all the stuff it takes to get yourself out there. So, the common assumption is that if you aren't going to head towards Cape Lookout here in North Carolina, you have to head west towards the mountains. But there are a few options to explore and camp in the coastal areas of the Old North State. One of them is Pocosin Lakes National Wildlife Refuge, and that's where we're headed this weekend. It's known for being a good place to spot wildlife, and among the wildlife is black bears. There's tons of them, and hopefully we might spot a few of them this weekend. They're usually not hard to spot out there in this refuge. There is a population of gators. There's not a lot of them up this far north, and I really doubt we'll catch sight of any of those in the middle of winter. There's also red wolves. This is one of the most endangered and reclusive of the wolf species. They're very rarely seen out in the wild, but there is a population of them here, so that would be really, really cool to actually spot one of those out during our travels. This place is also an overwintering site for tundra swans and snow geese, so there's going to be a ton of those out there, and that's going to be pretty cool to see and hear the tundra swans and snow geese over there at the Pocosin Lakes. It's not a big wheeling destination. It's crisscrossed by a lot of flat, straight sand trails out there for the Forest Service roads, but it's still a chance to get the rig off into some dirt and explore for a weekend, so I'm looking forward to that. Right in the middle of the National Wildlife Refuge is Phelps Lake. It's the second largest lake in North Carolina. It only averages about 4.5 feet deep, and it's crystal clear water. And supposedly I've never actually fished there, but I've heard it makes for really challenging fishing because not only can you see the fish really well, they can see you. And it's supposed to be a smallmouth bass haven. My license isn't current right now, so I'm not going to be taking advantage of any of that this trip. But if you're an avid angler, this is a highly regarded place to fish. The lake is surrounded by virgin cypress forests, And there's a trail system that runs through these, and I'm kind of looking forward to taking a hike through all these cypress forests. It's raised platforms that go through the swamp area, and you can see these cypress trees with all the root systems that are going down into the swamp, and they're really cool looking. There's a lot of cypress down in Florida where I'm from, and these forests are really cool to go through. There's also the lake on the side of the lake there. There's Pettigrew State Park. And that's where the campground is that we're going to be staying at there. The campground and the state park also contains the Somerset Place Historic Site. And the Somerset Place, that's a preserved antebellum plantation, which gives you kind of a peek into life as it was during the 1800s in the South. They have tours available, and that might be kind of cool to walk around too. This this park is right by the Albemarle Sound, so this gives us a chance. There's a whole bunch of different seafood places there, simply because it's a real easy place to get boats in through the sound, side and dock. So they have a lot of seafood places. And this gives us a chance to stock up on some fresh seafood. We got the refrigerator in the truck, might as well load it up and bring some stuff home. So, hoping to be able to find some fresh grouper, maybe some flounder, and looking for some scallops for a special Valentine's Day dinner that I'm cooking up this year. And I'm also, while we're down there, I'm going to try to get some video content out of it. This kind of depends on the weather, and if it's really raining, I may not want to, be getting out of the truck to go set up a cameras and stuff like that, but I'm going to try. My goal is to get some video out of this one. And so there may be a YouTube video once I have a chance to get home and dump everything into the MacBook and edit it all. I may have a YouTube video that I can squeeze out of this trip. I will advise on the podcast too, and I'll let you know here if I drop something over on YouTube. But I'm hoping I might be able to get something out of this trip. So I also wanted to talk about another overland camping event that's upcoming. And this is the Southeast Overland Camping event, which is going to be in the end of March, the last weekend of March of this year. We attended this event in March of 2023, and it's held at the historic Brushy Mountain State Penitentiary.
Uh, what?
No, we're not turning ourselves in to begin our sentence. It used to be a penitentiary, now it's a museum, hence the historic part of the name. This prison is notable for housing James Earl Ray back in the day, and that's the guy who shot Martin Luther King. They have a great tour there, which most of it is kind of a scared straight experience, but it also has a small art gallery that features works by former inmates, and some of the art is actually really good. At least in my book, I'm no art critic. There's a restaurant on site there called the Warden's Table. So, hey, you don't even have to bring food or cook if you don't want to. The restaurant has kind of a casual atmosphere. There's burgers, nachos, barbecue, that kind of stuff. The food is pretty good, or at least it was 2 years ago when we were there, but I would imagine that it's pretty much the same. And I thoroughly enjoyed the food while we were there. They even serve beer at the restaurant. Another thing that's adjacent to the restaurant, and there's a gift shop that's off the restaurant, but they have a distillery on site. So you can even get some samples from the distillery that they have there while you're at this event. It's a moonshine distillery, so if you're a liquor snob, you might want to bring your own, but they make something like 10 different flavors of moonshine, and you can even order a flight there while you're there to sample the different flavors that they have. So this is a lot of amenities for an overlanding event, which is what makes this one kind of unique, and it's one of the reasons why I enjoyed this one so much. So, what's there for off road enthusiasts? Well, it's immediately adjacent to Windrock Park. And this park has trails of all kinds of difficulties. They have everything from the, rock hopping type trails down to green trails. There's a lot of organized trail rides during the event for all levels of off road skills. So, no matter how built out your vehicle is or what your skill is on the off road, you'll find an organized trail ride that you can actually join in on. Going to Windrock Park, it requires a purchase of a separate pass to do Windrock, but it's a really popular thing for people to do during the weekend when they're there. There's an extensive vendor selection at the event too, so it's a great place to shop for that gear addition or vehicle upgrade you've been eyeing lately. A lot of the stuff that we use in overlanding are fairly big ticket purchases, and they're usually bought online. So, anytime you get a chance to actually walk around and get up close and personal with something you're considering buying, that's a huge plus. The vendor section was pretty large the last time we attended, and I'm sure it's only grown since then. If you do show up and checking out the vendor section, if the guy from Florida who does beef jerky is up there, do yourself a favor, go by and pick up some of his beef jerky and thank me later because that stuff was out of this world the last time we were there. I'm hoping I find him there this time too. There is also the usual range of classes offered at the event, stuff like GMRS radio usage, overland navigation, vehicle recovery, stuff like that. So even if you don't feel like joining in on any of the trail rides, or maybe you're bringing the deluxe camping setup and you don't want to break down until it's time to go, hey, you won't lack for stuff to do for the weekend. I should also mention that the raffle that these guys put on is downright epic. I'll leave it at that. Just buy a ticket and come out to find out. So, where do you find the tickets? Well, this event is hosted by TNT Overlander, and it's tntoverlander.com. Don't worry about writing that down. I've got to have a link in the description. I got you covered. So just look in the show description, the show notes, and you'll find a link there that you can click on and find and get your tickets there. So, hey, if you hear about the event here and you spot us at the event, hit me up and I'll hook you up with some stickers. We'll be in the charcoal gray Tacoma with the Dirt Road Tourist plate on the front. Can't miss us. And if you find that, guaranteed we're the only ones that are going to be there with that. We had a blast on our last time there, so I'm really looking forward to being there again. And I hope to see you also at the Southeast Overland Camping event hosted by TNT Overlander. Hey, that's all the show I have for this week. I hope you enjoyed it. Don't forget to hit the like and subscribe, and I'll see you here next week for another episode of The Dirt Road Tourist. Until then, as always, have a great week and go see something amazing.